Hi, in this video I want to show you how to make a very simple HTTP client in C#. And we will see it with an example by doing some requests to an API that is free, and you can replicate the code, of course, yourself and testing it right after. So let's see how to code it. The first thing that we have to do together is to create a folder for our project. So here I'm using the Visual Studio Code, and to create a folder I will use the terminal. So I will open a new terminal window, and I will check just the folders I have. I will navigate to the Windows folder, and I will create a new folder for my project. I'm on Windows machine, so I will type the command mkdir, and the folder will be named first HTTP client. Perfect. So let's navigate to this folder. Let's clean our terminal. Before we start, let's ensure that we have the .NET SDK that is installed. To check that, we just have to type the command .NET --info. We see in my case I have the version 9 that is installed, and that is active. So this version will be used to create the project. So to create the new project, we can use the command .NET new list, and we will see at first what kind of projects we can create as per templates that are available to us by default. So let's type this command. And here you can see we have a list of different templates that is provided to us. And to create this project, we just need a console template. And to create this project, we just need to type the short name. So the full command will be .NET new console. Okay, our project is created. Let's clear the terminal again, and let's see what we have in the folder. Perfect, we can see that our project has been created, and now the next thing is to create the solution. And think of the solution like a container for our project. So in that case, we have just one project, but in C# applications, you have projects that are contained in one solution. And basically, it's a standard way to handle the projects. So let's go ahead and create the solution. For that, we just need to type the command .NET new SLN. Perfect. We have our solution that is created. You can see it in the output here. The template solution file was created successfully. Perfect. Now we can add the project to the solution. For that, we just need to type the command .NET SLN add and the name of our project. And perfect. We can see that the project has been added to the solution. We can also check if the project has been added to the solution by typing the command .NET SLN list. And we can see all the projects that are contained in the solution. So we can see our project. Excellent. Let's continue by opening our folder. So to open the folder, let's type the command pwd, and we will see that I have this path where my project is hosted. So I will just type Ctrl+C to copy the path, and we will open it with the open folder option and just paste this path. Let's click select folder. You can see that our project is opened. Perfect. You can see here we have basically the folder explorer, and we have also the solution explorer. So let's click on the solution explorer, and we can just slide a bit up this menu, and let's see what we have inside. And we have the program.cs file, and here the console template just created this standard code, which is the console write line hello world. We can run this command right after, but that's what it did. So let's just open the terminal and let's try to run it. The command to run the application is the .NET run. And of course it's not working because I'm not in the folder right now, so we have to navigate to the folder of our project. So let's navigate to the folder of our project. Perfect. So now, if I run the command .NET run, we see the hello world output. Excellent, it's working. Now let's start to code our application. Let's clear the terminal. Let's remove this code and we will code exactly the application that we wanted to code, which is the HTTP client. So the first thing that we need to do is to create the HTTP client object. For that, let's write the following instruction. Using HTTP client, I will call just this object client, and we can create a new object of the type HTTP client. Perfect. That's the first step, and it will basically create the object of the type HTTP client. I'll explain a bit later what this keyword using means in this context. So let's continue. Now we have to set the base address, basically the URL of the API that we will call. So let's define this base address. For that we need to access the attribute called base address. And here I will define a new variable that is the URI, and we will simply define it directly. And let me just grab the URI that we will access, which is a site that is providing some jokes. It's completely free. You can use it, of course, for this example, and you don't have to register any API key, so that's perfect for our example. So the next instruction will be the call to the API, and also we will store the reply from the API in a variable. So for that we need to use the type HTTP response message, and we will just call this variable response. And the call to the API is asynchronous, so you have to use the word await client get async. And here I will type the missing part of the URL, which is this case is a random joke. And that means basically that this will be appended to the base address. And this will form the complete URL. An interesting thing to notice here is that the method getAsync is returning a task. And if you forget the keyword await, you will have the following error. Cannot implicitly convert type. And this is because here you are returning a task. And of course the task type cannot be stored in the response, which is a type of HTTP response message. We need to unwrap the task by putting this keyword await, and then it's working. Okay, let's continue with the next instruction that will be needed only to ensure that we received the response, and for instance that the server is not unreachable, in which case you will receive an error and it will throw an exception in the code and you will see it in the output. So for that we can access the response called ensure success status code, and then in the next instruction we will finally store the reply. We can just store it in the string. I will just call it JSON reply, and this is also an asynchronous code, so let's get the reply async method, and now we need to print our reply. So just let's try to print it. We are done with the code. Let's run the application and let's see what we have. Okay, excellent. We have this result. And basically it's providing some jokes. And congratulations, you have your first HTTP client that you coded. So that's nice. And now we can discuss about why this method is not something that can be used in the production grade applications. But that's fine. In our application, we are just doing some simple requests, and this is fine. You can definitely use this approach for your application that you would like to test or just code something for fun, so that's fine. But usually, if you will check in a production grade application, you will see some other approaches, and I will show you one of the approach in the next video. But let's discuss about why this can cause an issue. And this is coming from this keyword using, and from the fact if you will create several new HTTP client objects, you can face something that is called socket or TCP socket exhaustion. And that can create an issue on your system, but this is only if you create a lot of different HTTP client objects, because each object will create a TCP socket. And I will just demonstrate in a second what that means. But as I said, in our application, we just create one HTTP client object, so we are fine. If we will create several, we will run into an issue. I would say we need really a lot of new HTTP clients. Now let's see what it's exactly making behind this scene when you are running this instruction. So to understand what might create an issue with this approach, let's at first find what is the IP address that is behind this URL. So let's just ping the domain and let's see what we have. Okay, excellent. We have this address. Let's copy it. And now we will do basically a netstat to find the socket that has been opened to get the reply from the API. And of course, as you know, the HTTP is running over TCP, so that's why we have a TCP socket that is opened. So let's see what we have in netstat. So for that, I will open a PowerShell terminal and we will check together what we have. So I have my PowerShell terminal that is opened, and I will run the netstat command. For that, we can run the following command, netstat -n, and we will pipe the output of this command into the find str command to find quickly the result that we want. And of course, the IP that we will enter here will be the one that is representing this domain. In this case, it's this IP, but it may change because I think there is a kind of load balancer in front, so you may have a different IP, and that's fine. So before we run this command, let's run again the application that we coded. And this is needed, of course, to create the TCP connection. And now we can take the IP address that we have here and to see if we find the TCP connection. Okay, excellent. We have it. And you can see the TCP socket has been opened, and we can see the source IP address from which it was opened. This is the IP address of my PC. This is the source port that has been used. This is the destination IP that is matching the IP of the domain official joke API spot, as we can see here. And this is the destination HTTPS port, and this is the status time wait. And this status time wait represents the status of the TCP connection. The problem is that this status lasts for about 2 minutes, and of course, let's say you create thousands of HTTP client objects in your application. What will happen is that you will use all the source ports that are available on your system, and it can cause an outage on your system because it will run out of the possible source ports to communicate with the network. So you need to avoid that. And in our home application and test application, that's perfectly fine. We use just one instance of the HTTP client object. But in the production great applications, you don't use this approach. And in the next video, I will show you how to create a separate object, and it will use only one instance of the HTTP client in the application with a pattern that is called singleton. So if you're interested, I will show you it in the next video. And before ending this video, I would like to quickly mention why we are having the using keyword in front of HTTP client object. It's because the HTTP client class is implementing the iDisposable interface, which implements the dispose method, which allow us to dispose all the resources once they are not used by the application. And this is in a graceful manner. So basically, that's the reason why we are using. So that's it for this video. I hope it was informative for you. As always, if you liked this content, please subscribe to the channel to help to develop it. And see you in the next video. Bye!